our bipartisan effort, Senator Brock and Sears, on robocalls.
The Senate will please come to order. We'll begin this morning, with a moment of silence in lieu of a devotional. Thank you. Are there any announcements this morning? The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I move that the rules be suspended and appearing on the calendar for notice and carrying an appropriation H449 not be referred to the Committee on Appropriations.
The senator from Windham has moved that the rules be suspended and H449, which I will read the title of that bill, which is an act relating to the membership and duties of the Vermont Pension Investment Commission and the creation of the Pension Benefits Design and Funding Task Force, not be referred to the Committee on Appropriations. Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've suspended the rules and not referred H449 to the Committee on Appropriations. We have a referral this morning, House Bill H420 being on the calendar for notice, affecting the expenditures of the state under Rule 31 is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. We have two House bills for reference. H140, an act relating to the approval of amendments to the Charter of the Town of Williston pursuant to temporary Rule 44A. H140 is now referred to the Committee on Government Operations. Additionally, House Bill H225, an act relating to the possession of a therapeutic dosage of buprenorphine pursuant to Rule 44A, H140 is now referred to the Committee on Judiciary. This brings us to the orders of the day. We have on the calendar for third reading, S142. Third reading was ordered on May 4th, 2021. Are there any amendments this morning before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of S142.
S142, an act relating to designating August 31 as Overdose Awareness Day.
The question now is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed S142. We have on the calendar for third reading H177. Third reading was ordered on May 4th, 2021. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H177.
H177, an act relating to approval of an amendment to the Charter of the City of Montpelier.
You've heard the third reading. The question now is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you've passed H177 in concurrence. Additionally, we have on the calendar for third reading, H428. Third reading was ordered on May 4th, 2021. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading.
H428, An act relating to hate-motivated crimes and misconduct.
The question is, shall the bill pass? The senator from Essex Orleans is recognized.
Madam President, I want to start out by unequivocally saying that I hate hate. The only thing in my life I hate is hate. When I read to the bottom of this bill, I understood that this bill isn't so much about hate as it was to make a crime out of burning a cross or religious articles while perpetrating hate. Although I feel that this action is deplorable, it is protected under the First Amendment. The same as burning the American flag, an effigy of a person hanging by a noose, or even a Dr. Seuss book. We may not always agree with what is hateful or what is not, but because this bill specifically points to one object or related objects, something I wouldn't want to see burned in any circumstance, nonetheless, it's someone's protected right to express themselves, and therefore, I will not support this bill. I wanted to explain why I would vote no. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Are you ready for? The senator from Bennington is recognized.
Madam President, unfortunately, this bill comes to us because of a rise in hate-motivated behavior around the country and in Vermont. We are not immune. And the bill has a section regarding burning crosses and other things, which I deplore. But it also is important that we take out the word maliciously in order to be able to prosecute hate-related crimes. It's also important that we include whole and in part. That came from work that's being done in Massachusetts to try to deal with the number of hate crimes against Asian Americans, which is deplorable. And I'm disappointed that we would even have one no vote on this bill. It is time that we as a legislature speak up against hate in any form. And Madam President, I wanted to just make sure that everybody is clear the motivation of your Judiciary Committee in bringing this bill forward. Is it a very important advancement in being able to deal with some of this behavior? There was a case in Massachusetts where a woman got out of her car after a road rage incident and started yelling racial slurs at the operator of the vehicle. Yet she wasn't able to be charged with a hate-related crime because of the language in Massachusetts. That's the sort of thing we're trying to be able to deal with, even though all of her behavior indicated that it was hate-motivated because of the way the law stood, and that's the way the law stands in Massachusetts. We're trying to make improvements in our ability to hold people accountable when they behave in this deplorable manner with an enhanced sentence. And I believe that this is a good bill and deserves a yes vote. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Chittenden, Senator Bruce, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Unless I'm mistaken, the prohibition on burning a cross is already law. What we are doing here is removing the word maliciously, which I explained last time is an attempt to look into the mind of the person who's burning the cross. What the bill now says is that hate doesn't have to be the predominant reason, as long as it is a reason for the action that's being prohibited. So I would like to say that I agree with the chair of Judiciary. It would be a disappointment to me to have dissent on this, but I think we should be on the record about where we are. So I'll ask for a roll call vote on this.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I never want to make comment on why someone would or would not vote for any bill. I understand completely the concern about freedom of speech and our responsibility as a Senate to maintain that constitutional right. This bill, on the other hand, has two parts to it. One is you would have to establish that the individual actually burned a cross, for instance. But more importantly, the second part makes a connection that requires the prosecution to establish that it was done with the specific intent to intimidate someone else. And that's why, in justifying my own yes vote on the bill, I see a rational relationship between what is happening and what is intended, as opposed to someone simply demonstrating that they are upset about something. The prosecution has a high burden in trying to establish that motivation, if you will, on the individual's part. But it is that second connection that leaves me more comfortable in voting for this bill, because we are in the midst of a societal problem that needs to be constantly addressed. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Franklin is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Although I understand fully the issue of freedom of speech as described by my colleague from Essex Orleans, burning a cross has a meaning. It is a threat. It has historically been used in that fashion. It is a means of intimidation. It is the manifestation of hate. And we shouldn't tolerate it. And I will support this bill.
Thank you, Senator. Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? The secretary is kindly asked to call the roll, which was called the senator from, excuse me.
There is a senator with his hand up. Senator from Windsor.
The senator from Windsor is recognized. Excuse me, Senator, your hand was out of the screen.
And Madam President, I want to make the distinction, and I think the senator from Franklin has sort of stolen my thunder, but I want to make the distinction between the protection of disrespect to the American flag that is provided by the First Amendment according to the Supreme Court, their ruling. The protection of that distasteful behavior, and on the other hand, a prohibition on cross burning. And the distinction, I think, is important, and it is this, that as odious and obnoxious as flag burning is, it is a political statement. The flag is the symbol of our nation, and it is essentially a statement of contempt for the United States, which is obnoxious in my view, and most people's view, but is clearly a political statement. We wouldn't be offended by it if it weren't. On the other hand, cross-burning and similar gestures are an attack on a class of people. And yes, there is a right to express oneself. There is also a right to live one's life without being harassed and intimidated, to just go through life in this country without having to be targeted. And certainly cross-burning is a targeting of people of color. There was a time, and within living memory of people who are now very old, when it targeted Roman Catholics, and clearly was understood that way. Those Catholics had a right to be Catholics in America without being persecuted. People of color have a right to be people of color in America without being persecuted. And it is a form of persecution to be intimidated because of your religion or the color of your skin, so on. The showing of a swastika is an attack on Jewish people as a class. And those Jewish people have a right not to be so attacked. So taking a great deal of pride in a career of defending free speech, including gestures of meaning, which are speech under the Constitution, I will be voting for the bill with no contradiction. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? The senator from Chittenden requested a roll call vote. Are you ready for the question? The secretary is kindly asked to call the roll.
Senator Ballant.
Yes.
Senator Baruth,
Yes.
Senator Benning,
Yes.
Senator Bray,
Yes.
Senator Brock,
Yes.
Senator Campion,
Yes.
Senator Chittenden,
Aye.
Senator Clarkson,
Yes.
Senator Collimore,
Yes.
Senator Cummings,
Yes.
Senator Hardy,
Yes.
Senator Hooker,
Yes.
Senator Ingalls,
No.
Senator Kitchell,
Yes.
Senator Lyons,
Yes.
Senator McDonald,
Yes.
Senator Mazza,
Yes.
Senator McCormack,
Yes.
Senator Nitka,
Yes.
Senator Parent,
Yes.
Senator Pearson,
Yes.
Senator Perschlick,
Yes.
Senator Polina,
Yes.
Senator Rahm,
Yes.
Senator Sears,
Yes.
Senator Sirotkin,
Yes.
Senator Starr, Senator Terenzini,
Yes. Yes.
Senator Westman,
Yes.
Senator White,
Yes.
Please listen to the results of your vote. Yeas 29, the nays 1, and you've passed H 428 in concurrence. We have on the calendar for action H 426, read for the first time on March 24th, 2021. It was referred to the Committee on Education, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as set forth on pages 1621 to 1627 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which reports that the recommendation of amendment of the Committee on Education be amended as set forth on pages 1627 to 1629 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H 426.
H 426, an act relating to addressing the needs and conditions of public school facilities in the state.
The senator from Washington, Senator Perschlick, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Education.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, may I present our proposed amendment together with the underlying bill as passed by the House?
You may.
Thank you, Madam President. H 426 is a bill that the House Education Committee has worked on for a few years, at least a couple of years, and your Senate Education Committee has also worked on this issue. We worked on a bill last year that didn't go through because of COVID. But the general intent of the bill is to deal with all the deferred maintenance in our overall poor conditions of our K through 12 schools throughout the state. So I'll give you a section by section review of the bill. Section 1 is the findings and the purpose. It just reminds us that we used to have a program for state aid for school construction for many years. That program was ended in 2007 and again suspended in 2008. We did through 2008 through 2016, we honored our obligations for the kind of the pipeline of school constructions that were approved. But since 2016, we haven't provided any support for the school construction projects. The subsection E provides a purpose for the funding in the bill for the state and schools to utilize their Esser Funds. Esser stands for the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Funds. This is part of ARPA, or the American Rescue Plan Act. There's $28.5 million of Esser funds that goes to the state. There's another chunk, $280 million or something like that, that goes directly to the schools. we're just appropriating the money that goes to the state. This bill appropriates $4 million of the money that goes to the state, the $28.5 million. And there's some money in here to help the schools to best use their Esser funds. So into the meat of the bill, Section 2 directs the Secretary of Education to update the school construction facility standards. These were used to be kept up to date when we had the school construction aid program, but since that's been suspended, the facility standards have not been updated. That's the same with a rule that the State Board of Education has. This is the capital outlay financing formula to help the state in determining the cost for school construction. So we require the State Board of Education to update that rule. It's Rule 6124.1, in case you want to look it up. And in subsection C, the Agency of Education is authorized to use $100,000 in ESSER 3 funds to hire a consultant for technical assistance and helping to update that rule. Section 3 is what I consider kind of the most important part of the bill. This is the school facilities inventory and conditions assessment. It directs the Secretary of Education, working with buildings and general services, to do a school facilities inventory and conditions assessment to ascertain the extent of need for additional support to school districts as a result of COVID-19, inform the Agency of Education of the statewide school facilities needs and costs. In subsection B, it requires that the inventory be completed by next January, and then the next following year or following fall, over the next summer, we would be doing the more detailed assessment by October of 2022. So it's really just two phases. It's this inventory phase that requires the contractor to collect information about the current state of school facilities and the plans that the schools are planning to do. What kind of upgrades are they going to use their ESSER money to invest in those facilities? And then there's the assessment phase that requires plans for evaluating and collecting information and to develop a ranking system that would allow the state to prioritize schools with the highest needs. So if and when there's some funding, potentially other future federal funding, then we'd have the assessment done and we'd have a ranking system so we would know how to best deploy that money out to the schools that most need it. It appropriates $2.5 million for the inventory and assessment work. And it also requires that the agency create a database that all this information would be entered into. And it requires reporting back to the legislature on the assessment and inventory work. And subsection G makes it clear that when we talk about schools, we just mean public schools in this instance. Section 4, the school construction funding. This requires some more detail on the reporting of the challenges and opportunities on Vermont funding school construction projects. And they need to provide recommendations for a funding source for school construction projects that helps all Vermont schools, and an analysis on how other states are funding school construction projects. Section 5 adds school facilities management, training, and certification. It directs Secretary of Education to establish training and certification guidelines for the facility managers or facility directors and all the school districts, and also directs school districts or supervisory unions to designate a person responsible for facilities management in their buildings, basically, and that those people would get trained based on the training that we're requiring the Secretary of Education to create. Section 6 directs each school to develop and maintain a 5-year capital operations and improvement plan that they update annually. Section 7, this creates a limited service position within Agency of Education to implement the work in this bill. We're requiring a lot for AOE to do, so we're appropriating $127,000 ESSER money for them to be able to hire somebody to just kind of focus on all this work. Section 8 This amends 16 VSA subsection 559, which is a bid threshold. Right now, if a school wants to do work, if it costs over $15,000, they have to go out to bid. And that $15,000 threshold was created back in 2003. So we thought 8 years later was appropriate to increase that amount, and we increased it to $40,000. So if this was to pass, schools would only have to go out to bid. They could choose to go out to bid if they wanted to, but they would be required to if any of the cost was $40,000 or more. Section 9 authorizes Secretary of Education to hire a consultant to assist schools in using the Esser 3 funds that are allocated directly to them to improve the overall health and safety of the district's school facilities connected to COVID-19. The consultant's duties shall include project coordination and acting as a liaison between the schools and the agency. There's $500,000 to help pay for that consulting services. Subsection B of Section 9 also authorizes the agency to reserve $1 million of the state's Esser 3 funds to pay for projects where a school district requires additional funding to implement improvements. So if a school just gets into a situation where they didn't quite have enough of their own Esser monies, but it's a real important project, the state would be able to come in and make up the difference with this $1 million grant program that the AOE would run. Section 12, there's going to be amendment from Appropriations that changes the title of this section just to correct an error. But basically, this section just requires AOE and the Buildings and General Services to report back on how we can use the State Energy Management Program to support schools to implement energy efficiency and conservation projects as they're making their updates to their facilities and as they're looking at the inventory and assessment that's required in the bill. Section 11, it creates an indoor air quality grant program. Well, we already have a school indoor air quality grant program run by Efficiency Vermont. This would expand it to include more of the complete heating systems. The current program is only deals with ventilation and filtration. So this would allow all components of the HVAC to be funded through the grant program that Efficiency Vermont runs. The amendment from your Appropriations Committee will strike out all the funding for the grant program, but the language is maintained here in hopes that next session, in 2022, that the legislature would be able to appropriate some funds for the program. And then Section 12 is the effective dates. This act takes effect on passage. I also just want to give senators a heads up that before third reading, you will likely see an amendment to add radon testing to the school assessment part of this bill. So since we're going to be going out to all the schools and looking at their conditions, it seemed like an appropriate time to do the radon testing. So that's being discussed and worked on, so you'll probably see that at third reading. The committee vote on this bill was 6-0-0, and we ask for your support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Chittenden, Senator Baruth, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam President. I think it's fair to say that the Appropriations Committee was in complete support of the idea of an inventory of our schools and moving forward with the project to make schools healthier, safer, and less expensive in the overall by achieving efficiency goals. We did, as senators will note, looking through the amendment, as we do in other cases, we did remove funding and appropriations that were in the education amendment, but with an explicit promise toward the end, which I will point you to look for funding in the next session. So the first thing I want to note is on the bottom of page 1627, we wanted to make sure that the work that has been done on HVAC systems and the good work that Efficiency Vermont has done going around all the schools in the state was incorporated into the work product that would lead to potentially replacement of thermal systems and boilers. So that is called for in subsection D there at the very bottom of 1627. And then there is swapped out language for section 11 down below. And what that does in effect is it allows the program to move forward, and it allows Efficiency Vermont to recover their costs. And if you remember with the HVAC system, what they engaged in prior to doing the actual work was queuing up different projects in different schools according to need and other characteristics. So they will be looking to develop a similar sort of queue here. And if you go to the middle of 1629, you'll see just a couple of other things I want to point out. Under disclosures, with the HVAC system, there was some disagreement about whether schools should be forced to disclose whether or not they were participating in the program. Efficiency Vermont reported that no one had refused to have their names made public. So we just make that explicit, that if you're receiving a grant, you authorize Efficiency Vermont to release the name of your school and the grant amount. We think that's basic public transparency. And then down below, G, subsection G there right before the committee vote is the heart of the promise. During the 2022 legislative session, the General Assembly shall determine the source of funding for the program and the necessary reporting requirements. So we are seconding this project, but we are slowing the rollout of it just a bit to allow for more development, and we'll determine next time around which source these funds will come from. So our committee vote was 7-0-0, and we would ask the Senate's support.
Thank you, Senator. The first question is, shall the amendment of the Committee on Education be amended as proposed by the Committee on Appropriations? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the report of the Committee on Education as proposed by the Committee on Appropriations. The question now is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Education as amended? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Education as amended. And the question now is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 426. We have on the calendar for action H 433, read for the first time on March 24th, 2021. It was referred to the Committee on Transportation, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as set forth on pages 1629 to 1655 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Finance, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Transportation, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Finally, the bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which reports that the recommendation of amendment of the Committee on Transportation be amended as set forth on pages 1655 to 1657 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H 433.
H 433, An act relating to the transportation program and miscellaneous changes to laws related to transportation.
The senator from Grand Isle, Senator Mazza, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Transportation.
Madam President, I'll give a overview, and then it'll be every member will do the different sections of the bill to explain every section. Madam President, I am pleased to present the fiscal year 2022 transportation budget and transportation bill. The total transportation system investment level for fiscal year 2022 is $686 million, which represents an investment of $30 million over fiscal year 2021, and it is the largest budget proposal brought forth by the agency in the past decade. For the fifth consecutive year, the Agency of Transportation has presented a budget which does not rely on new revenues or fee increases. The budget maintains a strong focus on investing in state highway infrastructure at a level of $314 million. Transportation safety projects will receive $33 million in investments this fiscal year, including 27 towns, 27 projects, and 16 towns. We are benefiting the towns greatly this year. The investment in paving will be over $120 million, marking the 9th consecutive year above the $100 million investment level, and an increase of 14% over 2021. As we all know, paving is an important part of our infrastructure in Vermont, and we're making tremendous headways on those projects. The overall bridge program is funded at almost $72 million, with a rehabilitation or construction of 54 bridges. A lot of our bridges were falling behind, and we're making great progress in getting them up to standards. There will be an active state highway bridge project in 27 communities this year, which is really exciting to help out the communities with bridge programs. Roadway project investments total $37 million, with the construction of 27 projects and the advancement of 22 projects through design and right-of-way. Total investment in intermodal transportation, public transit, aviation, bike ped, park and ride, multimodal facilities, and rail is $116 million, an increase of $12 million over FY21. As you know, we have a lot to do with rail, and we're getting very, very close to have passenger rail from Burlington to New York City with the Middlebury project completed, the tunnel, and the upgrades of the track. The total transportation program investment is $79.7 million, an increase of $22 million over FY21. The FY22 budget incorporates $34 million of the $50 million in COVID relief funding received from the U.S. Department of Transportation in December of 2020. In an area of increased adoption of electric vehicles and improved vehicle fuel efficiency, we need to find a way to collect fees from these system users. We've heard from the agency, and they will be hiring a consultant to come back with some ideas about how we're going to replace the gas tax, because we know that is in the near future that we're going to have to do that. It's also a national issue across the country they're talking about. As we know, safety is job one. Our committee continues to be gravely concerned about the safety of our state employees, contractors, law enforcement, and responsive agencies who must work on our roadways day in and day out, a time when speed limits are regularly ignored. We will look forward to learning more about the use of technology to assist us in managing highway safety. This bill continues to place a significant policy emphasis on the climate impact due to emissions from the transportation sector. In addition to addressing greenhouse gas reductions, this bill also supports the state goal of meeting EPA air quality standards by adequately funding an income-based emission repair program for Vermonters whose vehicles fail annual emission inspections. There are additional policy changes and statutory language corrections that will be described in more detail by members of the Transportation Committee during the section-by-section walkthrough. I now turn it over to Senator Perschlick, who will begin the walkthrough of the bill. Thank you, Madam President.
The senator from Washington is recognized. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Madam President. But I have on my agenda that the senator from Essex Orleans was going to start us off with section by section.
Okay, we can do that.
The senator from Essex Orleans is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm responsible for reporting sections 3 through 9, and we're starting with section 3 on the maintenance budget. The big picture. This is the federal funds for transportation fund money swap. That is one, possibly because of the Consolidated Appropriations Act 2021, December federal bill, and two, necessary in order to free up $5.325 million that is used for Highway Transportation Committee's initiative, plus $150,000 extra for mileage smart and up to $400,000 for relocating the New Haven train depot as added by the Senate Transportation Committee that was not included in the governor's recommend proposed transportation programs. Section 3, pages 9 through 10, reduces transportation fund monies by $5.325 million and increases federal funds by $5.325 million, maintains authorized spending, and it is effective July 1st, 2021. Section 4 covers Bridge 61. The big picture moves Bridge 61 in Springfield, Vermont, project from program development to town highway bridges, accidentally included in the wrong program by the agency. No changes in authorized spending, which you'll find on page 10, and that's effective July 1st of 2021. Sections 5 through 6, repeal of the U.S. Route 4 permit. The big picture expresses legislative intent on the timing behind the repeal of the U.S. Route 4 permit, sections 5, page 11, and why the permit can be repealed effectively July 1st, 2022, which gives time for the agency to work with the town of Woodstock to make improvements during the summer's 2021 construction season and for the town to make additional improvements that it deems necessary, and then repeals the permit in codified law effective January 1st, 2022, pages 6 through 12 and 12. Sections 5A, page 11, expresses legislative intent on what should happen before the U.S. Route 4 permit is repealed, cooperation between the agency and the town of Woodstock, and completion of a particular paving project that is in the proposed FY22 transportation programs. Section 5B, page 11, explains how the January 1st, 2022 repeal timeline should allow for the completion of the project and the town to make any additional improvements it deems necessary. Section 6, page 12, repeals the permit. Effective July 1st, 2021, legislative intent, and January 1st, 2022, repeal of the permit. Section 7, federal infrastructure funding. The big picture establishes a process whereby the agency can, with approval from the Joint Transportation Oversight Committee, exceed federal monies spending authority in FY21 and FY22 and obligates and expand federal's monies up to $2 million in state transportation fund monies on certain projects. Subsection A, pages 12 through 13, authorize the agency with approval from the Joint Transportation Oversight Committee to exceed federal monies spending in FY22 and FY21 and 22, and to obligate and expend federal monies expend federal monies spending authority up to $2 million in state transportation fund monies on certain projects if certain additional conditions are met. Subsection B, page 13, further limits how state monies can be used. No TIB funds and transportation fund monies on certain projects. Subsection C, pages 13 and 14, establishes reporting requirements for the agency and Joint Transportation Oversight Committee approval process that includes a presumption that lack of disapproval within 30 calendar days is deemed approval to prevent Joint Transportation Oversight Committee from needing to meet if it approves of the proposal from the agency. Subsection D, page 14, sets that this authorization expires on February 1st, 2022, shortly after the 2022 session commences, effective on passing. Section 8 town highway structures and Class 2 town highway roadway programs in fiscal year 2022. Adds another $3 million in one-time transportation fund monies to the two grant programs collectively. The agency will determine the split between the two programs. This is in addition to the roughly doubling of the historic levels of grant awards in the two programs, which is a post-pause proposal by the administration that is included in the proposed FY22 transportation program, and a replacement for language that passed the House that would have the $3 million going to all municipalities through the town highway aid apportionment statute, page 15, that can be referenced, effective July 1st, 2021. In section 9, town highway structures and Class 2 program, Class 2 highway roadway programs in fiscal year 2021, authorize the agency in FY22 to reimburse municipalities for projects awarded a grant under these programs for costs incurred during FY21 that infected 6 municipalities that jumped the gun, although they would get a grant because FY22 was their year before the eventual pause in the programs in FY21. Sections 9, page through 15, authorizes the agency in FY22 to reimburse costs incurred in FY21, provided the municipalities incurring the expenses was eventually awarded a grant under one of the programs for the project. This is to address the issue of a limited number of municipalities that thought they were going to get a grant prior to the pausing of the two programs in FY21 and incurred expenses eligible for reimbursement under the program prior to actually getting the grant program. Then that's effective on passing. That is my section of the bill, and I would love to turn it over to Senator Perchulik. And thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. And now the senator from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. So I will start at section 10. And section 10, 11, and 12 all deal with the state's existing incentive program for new electric vehicles. This authorizes a new $3.25 million in one-time transportation funds, which could be used in this fiscal year if the program runs out of money, but also mainly we're thinking of it as a FY22 appropriations for the program. These sections also provide $250,000, up to $250,000 for Drive Electric Vermont, which is a partner that the state uses to help promote electric vehicles in our electric vehicle incentive program. If senators haven't been there, their website is driveelectricvt.com. I highly recommend it. I've talked to people in other states that use our state website when they want to look for an electric car. So if you're interested in an electric car, that driveelectricvt.com website is a great place to do so. It also allows 10% for Agency of Transportation to administer the program. Section 11 adds some session law to eliminate the way the program was administered in the past. That was through the electric utilities. We're going to now administer it through the state ourselves. Section 12 also makes some changes to the eligibility of the electric vehicle incentives. We increased the income limit. Before it was, you had to have a household income of $50,000. We raised that to $75,000. It also used to be limited to a married couple. So not both individuals and a couple couldn't receive the incentive. So we changed that to allow for one incentive per individual per year. And we also added a new section that would allow entities that are buying fleets of vehicles to have up 5 incentives, a maximum of 5. Your car share programs, other fleets that want to convert their fleets over to electric vehicles. So this would not hold them to the same 1 per individual maximum. Section 13 is making some changes to the Mileage Smart program, which is a program operated by Capstone Community Action. It's a statewide program that we started a couple of years ago to help low-income Vermonters buy used electric vehicles, or more likely used hybrid vehicles that need transportation. This provides them $750,000 to basically continue the program and allows them to continue to take 10% for administration of the program. As you heard from the Senator from Grand Isle, sections 15 through 17 deal with the emissions repair program. If you remember several years ago when we switched the emissions repair program and the inspection program to a tablet, we had a lot of problems with cars passing the emissions part of the test, and we created some waivers and emissions repair programs to deal with those that were low income that had trouble, getting their car inspected because they couldn't pass the emissions test. The program we established a few years ago never really got going. We had connected it to that Mileage Smart program that Capstone was running. We didn't really provide enough administrative support, and it really kind of languished for the last couple of years without ever really getting started. So these sections remove the requirement that it's be connected with the Mileage Smart and be administered by Capstone. And instead, it's going to be administered by the Department of Environmental Conservation, because they're very interested in this program to help us deal with our EPA compliance and our SIP that we haven't had approved for a long time. It provides up to $2,500 for a car that has a value of at least over $5,000 that can pass the safety inspection to get repairs done so that they can keep their car legally on the road. It provides us $375,000 for that program, for that emission repair program. And Section 19 repeals the inspections waiver. Since we didn't have the emission repair program, DMV had a waiver program, so we're taking that away since we are going to finally get the emissions repair program going. So that takes us down to Section 20, which is a new program that was in the governor's budget, and the House kept it in there. And this creates a program called Replace Your Ride. You can think of it a little bit as cash for clunkers. If a Vermonter has an old, lower efficiency vehicle, so that's a vehicle that's over 10 years old, they could get an incentive to buy a new vehicle up to $3,000 for a electric vehicle, or they could use the funds to get a electric bike, and that could include equipment for the bike, like bike helmets and other stuff that you would need if you were going to start using an electric bike for your commuting. There's $1.5 million for this program. Section 21 creates an electric bicycle incentive. We're working with utilities that have these electric bike incentives. There's an income eligibility requirement with this, as with all the incentives that we have in the T-bill this year. And it provides 250 incentives of $200 to try to help move the market and get people into using bicycles for their commuting. Section 22 creates an electric vehicle supply equipment grant program. And electric vehicle supply equipment is more commonly known as charging stations for electric cars. So we've had some electric charging station grants in the state before through the VW money. So this basically continues that work because the VW money has now been all granted out. It provides $1 million specifically for low-income multifamily housing to install charging stations. So low-income multifamily housing that's owned by a nonprofit could apply for funds to install charging stations. The last section that I will talk about is the electric vehicle charging station goals. We set in this section new goals for the state. The governor had set a goal that we have a charging station within 30 miles of every Vermonter. We met the governor's goal this last year, so we set a new goal. And the new goal is that we would have a level 3 charging station, often referred to as fast charging stations, within 5 miles of every interstate exit in the state, and also on the state highway system within 50 miles of any other level 3 charger. And we're asking the Agency of Transportation to update a map annually and submit that to the legislature until this goal is met. That concludes the sections I was going to go over, so I will now yield to the senator from Chittenden of the same name.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to go over the next 10 sections of the T-bill, H433. Section 24 has to do with a zero fare public transit for the fiscal year 2022. Big picture, this specifies that it's the General Assembly's intent to use available federal funds through the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, CARES Act, the Consolidated Appropriations Act 2021, and the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 to provide zero fare public transit on urban and rural routes in FY22 as practicable. And in the case of urban transit, providing that such use is first approved by the governing body of the transit agency, like, for example, Green Mountain Transit. Section 25 has to do with coordinated intermodal connections review. This requires the agency in coordination with certain providers to review and implement coordinated intermodal connections to the extent practicable to ensure efficient and accessible intermodal transportation in Vermont. The agency is also directed to work with transportation providers to support the cross-promotion of intermodal connections. For example, a bus schedule that will get someone to a train on time. Section 26 has to do with the PEV electric distribution utility rate design. It requires the electric distribution utilities to implement PEV rates for public and private EVSEs not later than June 30th, 2024. Going to Section 27, the Public Transportation Electrification Plan. This requires the agency, in consultation with the state's public transit providers, to prepare a long-range plan that outlines the cost, timeline, training, maintenance, and operational actions required to move to a fully electrified public transportation fleet, with the long-range plan required to be filed with the House and Senate Committees on Transportation no later than January 31, 2022. Airport and rail signs, as well as banners. This amends one of the Vermont state statutes to allow the agency to approve and erect signs directing individuals to state-owned airports and intercity passenger rail stations, including Amtrak, located within 25 miles of limited access highway exits. It also requires the authorization from the legislative body of the municipality where a banner is located in the case of banners crossing highway right-of-ways. Section 29 has to do with the site plan review to clarify coordination requirements between the plan approval process at the local level and the Agency of Transportation State Highway Access and Work Permit, Section 1111 permits for those that might know that term. Section 30 has to do with subdivision approval. It also adds to Vermont state statute a language to ensure coordination requirements between the subdivision approval process at the local level and the Agency of Transportation section, also pertaining to that 1111 permit. This Section 31 similarly ties in with the 1111 permit, and it just amends the permit, the fees for those said permits. Section 32 has to do with the Workzone Highway Safety Automated Traffic Law Enforcement Study and Report. Requires the agency in consultation with the Department of Public Safety and Associated General Contractors of Vermont to study and report on the use of automated traffic law enforcement systems in work zones and provide recommendations to House and Senate committees on judiciary and transportation not later than January 15th, 22. Again, in work zones, so just for safety purposes. Section 33 has to do with the Transportation Equity Framework, requires the agency in consultation with the state's 11 regional planning commissions, RPCs, to undertake a comprehensive analysis of the state's existing transportation program and develop recommendations on transportation equity frameworks that can be used by the agency to advance mobility equity, which is a transportation system that increases access to mobility options, reduces air pollution, and enhances economic opportunity to Vermonters and communities that have been underserved by the state's transportation system. Happy to elaborate on any of these, either be now or before third reading, but Madam President, I would encourage you to, I would like to yield, I believe I can do that, to the senior senator from Caledonia, but I give it back to you, Madam President.
Thank you. Would the senator from Grand Isle wish to say anything further about the bill, or should I recognize the senior senator from Caledonia?
Madam President, if you recognize the senior senator from Caledonia, then I'll wrap up the last.
Thank you. The senior senator from Caledonia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I was asked to report on Section 34, which is the New Haven Train Depot. what this section does is authorize $400,000 in one-time transportation fund money to go to a grant to the town of New Haven to cover the portion of the cost to relocate the train depot. In the capital bill, there was reference to this property. It is actually the Agency of Transportation owns the land. The State Historic Preservation owns the building. The hope is that the building can be moved. The estimated cost is $700,000 to $800,000. And there is a provision in the capital bill that a quit claim deed could be negotiated if, in this case, the town of New Haven wishes to take possession of the building. The hope is that it's a historic building that can be preserved, and therefore this $400,000 would go cover about half of the estimated cost of moving the building. There is hope that there would be a Northern Borders grant available to go with this money that's being appropriated or being referenced in this section of the transportation bill. So that is what Section 34 does, and this train depot has to be moved because of the Amtrak coming through that section of track. So the last section is Section 35, which is effective dates. And at this point, I would like to yield back to the chair of the committee, the senator from Grand Isle.
Thank you, Senator.
Madam President, the Section 35 is the effective dates. Section 7 related to federal infrastructure funding. Section 10 related to the authorization of incentive program for new electric vehicles and for mileage smart shall take effect upon passage. Section 6, repeal of the overlength truck permit for U.S. Route 4 shall take effect on January 1st, 2022. All of this section shall take effect on July 1st, 21. Your committee vote was 5-0-0, and we would hope the Senate would concur. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Addison, Senator Bray, is now recognized for the report of the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Madam President. The Senate Finance Committee reviewed one section, Section 31, relating to work permits. There are a variety of permits, and one type of permit was proposed by the Agency of Transportation to the committee to be reduced to a zero fee. It's a minor amendment that is typically just for an extension of an existing permit. The economic impact is estimated at only $3,730 a year in terms of lost revenue, so a de minimis impact on the budget, and the Finance Committee voted the bill out favorably as proposed by Transportation on a 7-0-0 vote.
Thank you, Senator. And now I'm returning to the senior senator from Caledonia, Senator Kitchell, for the report of the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam President. The Senate Appropriations Committee made several amendments to this bill in order to align it with the funding that is in the budget bill that we have already passed. So the first instance of amendment is to reflect the additional $500,000 that went to Mileage Smart with the ARPA funding. And this section is really an inventory of the investments or the ways in which this bill supports carbon emission reductions. The second instance of amendment was simply to correct a numbering sequence that was incorrect. The third instance of amendment really tied back to the G section of the budget and the use of the American Rescue Plan funding. The first is the addition of funding for the DMV IT system replacement. That was $24.5 million. We also had in the clean water section of that G section, 700, $3 million that went to phosphorus control planning and $500,000 that went to municipal mitigation. And then the fourth instance of amendment was to replace the Mileage Smart section, and it recognizes that there is $750,000 in the one-time transportation funds that are effective upon passage so that there is no interruption of the program before the end of this fiscal year. And then the additional $500,000 that was recommended in the budget to add to that $750,000 for the program through the end of fiscal year 2022. Additional money was recommended by our Committee on Natural Resources because with additional counseling and support that has been provided, it is anticipated that the take-up rate under that program actually is going to continue at a higher level. And so that one section is the 750 is effective upon passage to make sure that there's sufficient funds so that the program will operate without interruption through the end of this fiscal year. These are the amendments that are being proposed by the Appropriations Committee, again, to align the transportation bill with what is in the budget, and the committee vote was 7-0-0. We hope this body will concur.
Thank you, Senator. The question now is, shall the report of the Committee on Transportation be amended as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the report of the Committee on Transportation as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations. The question now is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Transportation as amended? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Orange is recognized.
Madam Pro Tem, Madam President, may I interrogate the senator from Washington, who a reporter of the bill?
The senator from Washington is recognized. You may.
Madam President, the reporter talked about a program that was akin to the Gas for Guzzlers program, part of the efforts to reduce carbon emissions. It was up to if you turned in a gas guzzler, you could get $3,000 to purchase a new vehicle. Did that provision require that the new vehicle to be purchased had to have better gas mileage than the junker that was turned in?
Thank you, Madam President. I know we talked about the requirements of what is considered an older, low efficiency vehicle. I'm trying to look really quick to see what the requirement of the new vehicle is to make sure that would hold. Because the requirement of what you use the money for is an electric vehicle, then I think it just goes without saying that since the vehicle that you're turning in, which has to be destroyed, has to be a vehicle with an internal combustion engine, and the vehicle that you're purchasing is either an electric bicycle or a used or new electric vehicle, that it's just by default going to be considered a more efficient vehicle. But it doesn't specifically say that it needs to be more efficient in the wording that I'm looking at.
Mr. President, I want to thank you.
I'm sorry. It's Madam President.
Madam President, that was my first question, and that is helpful that we all know that it will, in fact, reduce carbon emissions. And the second one deals with those of us who own and operate electric vehicles in the state of Vermont. To date, requests that we no longer have to drive around with a scarlet F on our foreheads for freeloaders. Does this bill contain an opportunity for us to pay our fair share of road use taxes when we operate our vehicles on the roads of the state? Is there an opportunity in this bill for electric vehicle drivers to pay their fair share of road use taxes?
Thank you, Madam President. The point is well taken, and it is something that your Senate Transportation Committee has discussed a lot of. Particularly the Senator from Grand Isle is very concerned about this and how we're going to make sure that the owners, drivers of electric vehicles do pay their fair share. Working with the administration and the Agency of Transportation, we did not come up with in this bill that would allow drivers of electric vehicles to pay into the transportation fund. But we understand the problem and the need to do so, and the Agency of Transportation is working on a proposal that they're going to bring back to the legislature on the best way to do that next session.
Thank the Senator. Madam President, this is a sore point when electric people purchase electric vehicles to move us off of carbon, and then we drive around unable, as freeloaders. And it doesn't send a good message and suggests that for some reason we should not have to pay for our share of the roads. And I look forward when we return in January to the committee's plan to include electric vehicles as tax-paying road users. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. The Senator from Addison is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm rising just in appreciation for the work of the Transportation Committee. It addresses many, many positive things, and I particularly am rising to thank the committee for addressing the New Haven Junction Railroad Station. So it's great that we're upgrading track. It would be regrettable if improving train service was going to be at the expense of a 170-year-old historic, handsome, traditional railroad station at the junction. So thank you for looking at a way to resolve that impasse.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Transportation as amended? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Transportation as amended. The question now is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 433. There's been a request to pass over S 42, and without objection, we'll do so. I will now move to S 66. S 66 is an act relating to electric bicycles. The House has proposed to the Senate to amend the bill as set forth on pages 1662 to 1663 of today's calendar. The underlying question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment on S 66. I may call on the Senator from Grand Isle as to who should be recognized for the report.
Madam President.
Or perhaps the Senator from Chittenden, who previously, yes, the Senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Madam President, I reported on this bill originally, so the Senator from Grand Isle may want to direct it to me, but I must admit that I was unawares that it was going to be discussed today. Might I request we pass over S66 so that I could properly report on the H revisions of this after talking with the Chair of Transportation?
Certainly, without objection, you may. We will now pass over S66. And this completes the orders of the day. The Senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I move that the Senate standing adjournment until May 6th at 10 a.m. Oh, my apologies, Madam President. My apologies. We are going to do, thank you, Secretary Bloomer. As always, we are going to do some confirmations. Thank you. Madam President, if we could turn our attention to confirmations, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We have a number of confirmations or appointments rather to take up at this time for confirmation. We will begin with the appointment of Dr. Jessica Holmes of Cornwall to confirm as a member of the Green Mountain Care Board. The question is, shall the appointment of Jessica Holmes of Cornwall, be confirmed by the Senate? The senator from Addison, Senator Hardy, is now recognized for the report.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Jessica Holmes is being considered for reappointment to her second 6-year term as a member of the Green Mountain Care Board, Vermont's healthcare regulatory board. A healthcare economist, Dr. Holmes specializes in data and systems analysis with the goal of achieving a sustainable, efficient, and effective healthcare system for patients and providers. Dr. Holmes is a tenured professor of economics at Middlebury College, where she teaches courses in health economics and policy, microeconomics, the economics of social issues, and interestingly, the economics of sin. She has received the Gladstone Award and the Marjorie Lamberti Faculty Appreciation Award, both honoring excellence in teaching. Dr. Holmes has published economic research in numerous peer-reviewed journals and currently serves as the co-director of the American Economic Association's Mentoring Workshop for Women Faculty. She has also been appointed by the Foreign Minister of Mexico to serve as an honorary consul to Mexico for Vermont. Dr. Holmes earned a PhD in economics from Yale University and a bachelor's degree in economics from Colgate University. She's an avid swimmer, and many early mornings can be found at the pool with the Middlebury Muffin Tops Swim Club, training for the U.S. Masters Ultra Marathon Open Waters Nationals. On a personal note, I have known Jessica for most of her 20 years in Middlebury, each of us raising 3 kids of similar ages. Over the past 2 decades, we've spent time together at toddler birthday parties, playgrounds, and sports fields, and school and college events. Jessica is pragmatic and creative, and always willing to help others understand complex issues and solve tough challenges. We're lucky to have her skills, knowledge, and optimistic outlook serving our state. Your Health and Welfare Committee voted 5-0-0 in favor of the reappointment of Dr. Jessica Holmes to the Green Mountain Care Board, and we ask that you do the same. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the appointment of Dr. Jessica Holmes as member of the Green Mountain Care Board be confirmed by the Senate? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've confirmed the appointment of Dr. Jessica Holmes as a member of the Green Mountain Care Board. This is the appointment of Mark A. Levine, Dr. Levine, as Commissioner of the Department of Health. The question is, shall the appointment of the question is, shall the appointment of Dr. Levine as Commissioner of the Department of Health be confirmed by the Senate? The senator from Addison is again recognized for the report.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Mark Levine is being considered for reappointment as the Vermont Commissioner of Health. Dr. Levine was first appointed Commissioner of Health by Governor Scott in March of 2017. Little did he know when accepting the position that he would become our state's calming voice of public health and safety during a global pandemic, steering Vermont through a traumatic public emergency with skill and empathy. It's fair to say that nobody in our state has worked harder to keep the people of Vermont safe and healthy over the past 14 months than Dr. Mark Levine. As Vermont begins to reemerge from the pandemic with one of the best public health records in the country, we all owe a debt of gratitude to Dr. Levine. Prior to his appointment, he was a professor of medicine at the University of Vermont and most recently the Associate Dean for Graduate Medical Education and designated institutional official at the College of Medicine and the UVM Medical Center. Dr. Levine has a bachelor's degree in biology from the University of Connecticut and an MD from the University of Rochester. He completed his internal medicine residency and a chief resident year at the University of Vermont and a fellowship in general internal medicine at the University of North Carolina, which emphasized clinical epidemiology, research, training, teaching, and administration of educational programs. Dr. Levine has a reputation as an outstanding teacher and educational program innovator, receiving teaching awards from the medical school and the Department of Medicine. He maintains his faculty appointment and continues to actively teach. Prior to becoming commissioner, he practiced general internal medicine with special interests in solving complex diagnostic dilemmas, health promotion and disease prevention, and screening and clinical nutrition. Throughout the past year, I, like many of my colleagues, have been in close contact with Dr. Levine and his staff, asking questions and sharing concerns and ideas from constituents. I've often pushed Dr. Levine and his team on issues of particular importance to me and my constituents, especially related to childcare, schools and colleges, health and safety protocols, and vaccine rollouts. I have not always agreed with Dr. Levine, and I have made that clear publicly on several occasions. But even during the height of what must have been an incredibly stressful year, he has always responded with the utmost professionalism and respect. Your Health and Welfare Committee voted 5-0-0 in favor of the reappointment of Dr. Mark Levine as the Commissioner of Health, and we ask that you do the same. We hope that his reappointment is approved and that he is afforded time for a long and restful vacation very soon. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the appointment of Dr. Mark Levine as Commissioner of the Department of Health be confirmed by the Senate? Are you ready for the question? Kindly, the senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I wonder if we might take a moment here to say thank you to Dr. Levine and do this confirmation by roll.
The senator from Chittenden has requested a roll call vote. Are you ready for the question? Again, the question is, shall the appointment of Dr. Mark Levine as Commissioner of the Department of Health be confirmed by the Senate? The Secretary is kindly asked to call the roll.
Senator Ballant.
Yes.
Senator Baruch.
Yes.
Senator Benning. Senator Bray.
Yes.
Senator Brock.
Yes.
Senator Campion.
Yes.
Senator Chittenden.
Aye.
Senator Clarkson.
Yes.
Senator Collimore.
Yes.
Senator Cummings.
Yes.
Senator Hardy.
Yes.
Senator Hooker.
Yes.
Senator Ingalls.
Yes.
Senator Kitchell.
Yes.
Senator Lyons.
Yes.
Senator McDonald.
Yes.
Senator Mazza.
Yes.
Senator McCormack.
Yes.
Senator Nitzka.
Yes.
Senator Parent. Senator Pearson.
Yes.
Senator Perschlick.
Yes.
Senator Polina.
Yes.
Senator Rahm.
Yes.
Senator Sears.
Yes.
Senator Sirotkin.
Yes.
Senator Starr.
Yes.
Senator Terenzini.
Yes.
Senator Westman. Senator White.
Yes.
Can you say it again? Repeat it, sorry. You should repeat it because I got it.
Senator Benning. Senator Parent.
Sorry, Vanessa.
Senator Westman.
Please listen to the results of your vote. The yeas 27, the nays 0, and you've confirmed the appointment of Dr. Mark A. Levine as the Commissioner of the Department of Health. This is the appointment of John J.